to companies' bottom lines.
It is. It's leading to more efficiency in manufacturing. It's leading to new capabilities, in public safety, in the way cities manage their infrastructure. The latest research numbers I've seen say that we'll be adding $670 billion to the world economy in 2017 through Internet of Things.
But Alex, do you think companies are actually ready to take advantage of what we're seeing as far as technological advancements are concerned? Are we actually seeing them willing to invest the money to be willing to actually take the Internet of Things and put it into practice?
Yes, absolutely. And they have to take advantage of this, otherwise they will, they'll lose their business to disruptors. In terms of manufacturing companies, about 50% have already started using Internet of Things in some way, shape or form within their production lines, within their businesses. We're certainly seeing in the rise of wearables a lot more healthcare related uses there.
Are you seeing any trends as far as the type of company that's willing to invest in this type of technology? Is it geographical? Is there a geographical difference? Is there a size difference? Bigger companies are more likely than small companies, or is it down to whether or not that company is already in a kind of technological field?
So we are seeing certain sectors be in the vanguard of this. Manufacturing, logistics, both very early adopters. Within the physical security world, we're seeing a lot of, across all industries, but horizontally, security has been a first player in this space, but that's spreading. Every business, every vertical, every horizontal will start using IoT.
I'm conscious of the fact that we may have already slipped into using jargon, which is always a risk in these type of conversations. But let's break it down for people watching at home. What do we mean when we say the Internet of Things? What, in practice, does that look like for a company?
So the Internet of Things is the use of internet-connected sensors that can communicate with other sensors to create business outcomes at the simplest level. And so within a manufacturing setting, that might be knowing where all of your parts are within a supply chain at any given moment.
So that's because they've got a GPS tracker of some description, or
internal location tracking, tagging them as they come in through goods in, being able to visualize where they are in the production line, where your tools are in the production line, and then being able to draw inferences in terms of how those components are coming together, so what has been installed on it, say an aircraft, what tools have been used to install that part, even who was working with that tool when it was installed, which is important in safety critical industries, to be able to trace back all of those capabilities throughout the entire lifetime of an aircraft, say.
All of this stuff sounds very impressive, but it also sounds expensive. How does a business make sure that they don't end up over-capitalizing on this new hardware and software, and that the investments that they make actually pay off for the company's bottom line?
Yeah, and sensor costs are dropping dramatically. So they halved in the last 10 years, they'll halve again in the next 5. So they are much cheaper and they're much more available. I mean, we're not quite at putting a sensor on every can of baked beans, but certainly even within the retail space, we're seeing a lot more sensor technology in stores, which is a traditionally fairly low margin business. But it's then looking at what are your key business problems that more information would help you solve. Where are your critical assets that you're trying to be able to monitor and understand? Where have you got a lot of manual processes in your business that actually, if the machines could talk directly to other machines, we'd be able to remove those manual bottlenecks within processes.
It obviously then invites the question of how do you manage this huge amount of information that you're actually getting, this huge amount of data. It would seem to be great to have as much data as possible about a company, but how do you make sure that information is usable and that you don't just end up swamping yourself in useless information?
So what we're starting to do is see more what we term edgeware. So being able to process that data into information at the edge of the network. So you're not bombarding the network in your central data centers with all of this data that you then create data lakes that you can never make any sense of. So it's about extracting information and knowledge at the edge, using that to create real-time actions, and then only sending back to the center what you need for longer term analysis and data trends you're trying to draw out.
Give us an anecdote of where you think this technology is being used in the most interesting, the most creative way.
So there's so many great examples. I mean, in manufacturing, being able to drive 40% of your supply chain management costs out of the business, but also passing on a lot of those embedded capabilities to future users of that product. So it's not just about the manufacturing efficiencies, but it's then being able to allow your end customers, say in the airline example, the airlines, to do much more efficient servicing of those aircraft, being able to check safety critical systems in minutes rather than hours. We've got a really interesting example in Japan and Korea, where we're putting wearables onto cows to manage the fertility cycle of the cow, drop the fertility timescale from 400 days to 350, and that has a real bottom line impact to the farmer of sort of $350 per cow per year in increased productivity.
As part of your job, you travel to the different corners of the world. What do you think is specific to Australia? Do you think there's a national characteristic in the way that we're adopting this technology or how we're using it?
So I think Australia has a huge potential to adopt this. There's a lot of primary industries that are actually ripe for kind of digitalization and digital transformation. In terms of adoption, we are seeing our customers in Australia adopt. We're making some announcements this week around the availability of Fujitsu edgeware in Australia, and we're seeing real interest from customers, from airlines to public sector organisations through to retailers in this space. So there's huge potential, but it's quite early days, I think.